rot in the air, a handshake, a lie, a blank, cold stare. Puppets dance, the strings are tight, shadows whisper in the dead of night.
There we go.
This is some bullshit. We see through it. This is some bullshit. Can't undo it. Say it loud. We won't quit. This is some bullshit.
All right. Let's just get started because I got so much to cover this morning, and I want to remind everybody, if I may, like, subscribe, give a thumbs up, support the show, etc., etc., etc. I gotta say, our first guest back from a long hiatus because he's been kicking on the campaign trail is our dear friend, Major Richard Ojeda. There he is. How are you, sir? Welcome back. Yeah, and a ton to talk about. You know, every time I feel like in the modern days, well, white knuckling the government as we are currently, that every day is drinking from the fire hose of news, and so you can go 24 hours and it feels like what used to be a political eternity. But then there's also this kind of like reset of gravity that if you let it go for a couple of days, shutdown aside, and we'll talk about that it normalizes whether Trump likes it to or not. That we get back to a point where, all the noise he was making still is not drawing attention away from jobs numbers or the Epstein files, right? And so he's flailing a lot out there right now. And there's so many aspects of this. Hold on, let me make sure that sorry. Oh, there's no, you guys, okay, the audio isn't coming. Hold on one second. Let me make sure. Okay, give me 1 second. That will be remedied right here. Oh, I see. That's why that's happening. All the little buttons from, here it is. I know what it is. One moment, everyone. And get my thing back. There we go. Check, check. You should be all right now, I think.
I can hear you. I can't see you.
Okay. Let's see. Virtual cameras. Okay, yeah. Virtual camera is just going to be a big old jerk. So hold on 1 second, and I will open up preview. Yeah, I'll throw my camera in the eCam so you can see me, at least see my face, and then we'll because let's see. Yeah, there we go. Can you just see me though? At the very least,
I don't see you at all.
Huh.
I just see me in the box, and then it's just a big green box.
Okay.
And then my side says Major Ojeda, and there's a blank box that says Philip Bittner.
It says Philip. Okay, so I'll throw myself in there so you can see me at the very least, and then at least you know who you're talking to. But it looks the regular live stream looks fine, I think. And then I think your audio is coming through now. Fine. Beg your pardon. Thanks, everybody. So let's just start today with like right out of the gate, this piece of business, which is Google is accused of blocking searches about Trump and his dementia. And this one, like they show an example of if you looked up Biden's dementia and what the AI on the Gemini AI on, that would give a summary would say about it, or the articles about it, it would be a full blown list of stuff and description of it and everything. And over here, it literally says, here are the top web results. There is no AI summary available on Trump's health. That, I mean, after the big meeting he had with these, with the tech oligarch crowd, it's no surprise that they're doing this. And I would argue that they're doing this to get in his favor, not because they're afraid of him, but they're looking at the contracts they can get and all that. All of them are shooting to get either their AI and some element of government and locked in as an early adopter for the trillions over decades that would likely give them.
Which we need to remember. We need
Yes.
to remember, because once again, when all this is done, and look, it's not going to last forever.
Hmm.
It's looking really bad. It's feeling really bad. We know that it's Donald Trump, who's a buffoon, surrounded himself with other buffoons.
Hmm.
But in the end, but I'm going to tell you, there needs to be a time when we call people to the carpet for these reasons. Why did you choose to protect a man? And oh, by the way, you did it because what? Because you thought about you could get contracts. So basically, you're more than willing to sell your soul
Right.
for you to get something, from Donald Trump, than to basically just do what you're supposed to do
Hmm.
instead of cowering down. If you're gonna do something for Biden, then you need to do the same thing for Trump. Period.
Right.
Uh,
Well,
he's
okay.
got a lot of people scared
Right.
that shouldn't be.
And by the way, you actually have a lot of people on the run right now because your campaign is doing fantastic. You're not even into the primary, and you're killing it as far as both fundraising and outreach
Yeah.
and the like. Which catch us up on the campaign and where you think you're gaining ground and work that still needs to be done.
Well, I will tell you that putting boots on the ground, and that's look, that's who I am. That's a
Yeah.
military thing. Put boots on the ground. I'm going to tell you that I am putting boots on the ground throughout the 9th Congressional District every chance that I get, multiple times, multiple locations every day. In the last 4 days, I have driven to the farthest area of my district 3 times. And I'm going to tell you, those people, when I show up, they're like, my goodness gracious, are you living up here now? And
Hmm.
the reason for that's because I'm busting my butt. Let me tell you, we've raised $1.1 million and the primary hasn't even started. And I
Right.
feel very comfortable. We're going to blow through the primary. I'm running against another guy in the primary, but you know what? He's a great person, but he cannot raise the money that is needed to flip this seat from red to blue. And let me tell you something. If anybody out there thinks that you can flip a seat from red to blue on the congressional level without having to raise a lot of money,
Right.
you are misinformed. I mean, as much as I hate, there's nothing that I hate more than calling people and asking them for money. But
Hmm.
I'm going to tell you right now, I can flip this seat from red to blue. And if I flip this seat from red to blue, I got things I want to do.
Yeah.
And I'm going to tell you right now, we take back the House like we are supposed to take back the House. We should have a big enough lead where we can push and pass anything that we want. And I'm going to tell you, I want to push things like immediately ending Citizens United.
Hmm.
These are things that allow billionaires to be able to buy our elections. I want to bring back the fairness doctrine. I want to raise the pay for teachers and school service personnel. There's a lot of things that I want to do, and I better not get up there and find that my biggest opposition are these Democrats that, talk a good game when the Republicans are in power, but the moment that we get back power, they start dragging their feet. I'm
Hmm.
not playing that game. Look, I'm gonna tell you right now, I don't care who you are. I'll go nose to nose with the Democrat because I want to do things that's going to benefit the people. I don't want to go to Washington, D.C. for the next 20 freaking years. I'm already retired. I love traveling the world. I want to go there for maybe 1, 2. I mean, depending on if the people really like what I'm doing, that's wonderful. But I want to go there to get things done. And if I go there and I can't get nothing done, then I don't need to be there.
Right.
Period.
Right. And so we have a lot of back and forth right now about the government shutdown. So right now, the Thune is selling this idea that there's a continuing resolution worked last time. We just want a temporary one so we can punt it to November, effectively allowing the cuts from the big BS bill to go through. That's the window that they're trying to punt past and lay off the next one onto Christmas so that they can, so that the blaming Democrats angle works stronger, they think, closer to Christmas and closer to those jobs. When in reality, that's when I believe Trump and his crowd plan on firing a lot of workers, specifically in the federal government and getting rid of contracts that will also cause firings in NGOs and companies that support people because of this agenda that they quite frankly have that is shrink the federal government down. This is old school Republican, make the government so small you could drown it in a bathtub and eliminate the support structure, what they view as the welfare state, but is actually the safety net for a lot of human beings in this country. Eliminate that and just let the chips fall where they may. Ignore the problem until it goes away. Effectively, they're this allow fentanyl to flood during the first Trump presidency, so it clears out the decks. So it effectively, if they want to die of an overdose, let it happen. Don't give them Narcan. Don't allow as much of it to get in as possible, and then you'll just kind of passively use eugenics to get rid of the worst people. The same thing they're doing in government jobs. They want to shrink the government down because Peter Thiel and J.D. Vance and Curtis Yarvin and all these guys who are basically monarchists will put the government in the hands of a smaller and smaller and more powerful crowd instead of in the hands of the people, which is where it should be.
Well, I will tell you that, Donald Trump was even caught on a hot mic talking about basically taking this opportunity to kill a lot of people's jobs.
Right.
We also have a person from Fox News, I believe, that said, now it's time to fire 800,000 Democrats.
Mm-hmm.
Look, we are in a world of hurt right now. And, I keep telling people, this administration is as corrupt as it gets. They don't care about nobody but their own selves and their pockets. And a lot of Americans are going to get hurt. And the thing about this is that the people that are going to get hurt the most are those people from these red states.
Right.
If California, if Illinois, if New York, if Massachusetts said tomorrow, well, we're going to not send our taxes to Washington, D.C. anymore, because what do we get for it? We don't get any type of disaster relief. So why should we send our money to Washington, D.C. and let's keep it for our own disaster relief? Now, if they decided to do that, I can guarantee you that Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, Arkansas, West Virginia, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, these are states that will crash. They will go under. And these people better understand, you want to sit and you want to gripe about these liberal run states or Democratic ran states, you better understand that if it's not for them, you're going under. Mm-hmm. And, it's only a matter of time. And once again, these are people that do not care about the working class. They do not care about people that are poor. And the bad part about it is that's their biggest audience. Yeah. That's their biggest supporters. There's this administration is just absolutely an embarrassment. And what took place with Hegseth and Trump with the generals, embarrassment. There's so many things that these people are trying to do and get away with. This shutdown, you notice how before the shutdown, they did manage to give $20 billion to Argentina,
right.
because they take care of what they want to do to make sure that, the Donald Trump's people that lick his boots are taken care of. But now this shutdown is going to hurt a lot of people. And I tell you, I hope people out there are prepared for this. If it gets any worse, I hope you guys are prepared.
Yeah, well, and the red states are not. They never have been. And this whole idea that these are the bootstrapping states and somehow the blue states and the blue cities are all full of, welfare queens and hangers on, when the exact opposite is true. Everybody financially knows this. And one of the reasons why under the radar in the big BS bill and other things, and why they're spending more money under Trump than we spent under Biden in a lot of areas, is because they are doubling down on effectively the welfare support in red states, because they do not stand on their own. And one of the more ironic things, we'll talk about like Argentina and the fact that China's buying rice from them right as we gave them a big bailout, which was another big slap in the face to Trump as well. But one of the things that they complain that blue states don't handle their crime, blue states have all these issues. One of the reasons is because a third of their operating money automatically goes out the door. That these big cities, the tax base in these big cities, the tax base that drives the engine of our entire economy, that's in Chicago and New York and Los Angeles and San Francisco, goes right out the door to protect everything from Bakersfield, California, to all of Mississippi and Louisiana. And if it wasn't for ports paid for by the federal government, there wouldn't even be a secondary industry in a bunch of these areas. Yeah. On the western side of Florida, all the way up through the Panhandle,
Louisiana.
Right. There would be no industrial base except for that. And they certainly haven't grown on top of it. I mean,
Yeah.
basically what they've got down there is, American ports for shipping. Nothing that's made there that you'd think, because you're right there, it would be a great place for businesses to flourish because the shipping is right there. There's obviously a lot of agricultural resources and the like, but somehow they just don't bother. And then they blame Chicago.
Yeah, I don't like hearing about these red states and how they're going to hurt. But make no mistake about it. Sometimes maybe this is one of those things where I hope this is a learning point for these people in these areas that are always griping and bitching about daggone Democrats.
Right.
When you guys are starting to go under, look, we already know, Donald Trump didn't help the farmers at all. Donald Trump has caused these farmers to lose their legacy. And I just hope that these people that are watching, that these people that continue to scream that it's the Democrats that cause all the problems.
Right.
You guys control the House, you control the Senate, you control the Supreme Court, you can control the executive branch. You pretty much control all three branches of government. So, but yet, it's the Democrats' fault,
Right.
and that's what kills me. And that's why when I hear these people trying to defend this garbage and act like, well, it's the liberals, it's the Democrats.
Right.
I mean, you got, it's the level of stupidity. And when are they going to wake up? And the truth is probably never.
Right.
Because, when you drink from the fountain of Fox News, Fox doesn't exactly let you know that they lie to you on a daily basis.
They can't.
And they have poisoned.
Yeah.
They have poisoned the minds of so many people. The hatred. I mean, literally, Brian Kilmeade, that little sack of trash, literally said involuntary manslaughter. Mm-hmm. Literally, like we're going to give him shots and kill him,
Yeah.
When
Eugenics.
when your response to the homeless crisis is to basically kill them.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that's it. That's it. And the thing about it is that all of these people in these red states that fly their Trump rags, that live in squalor.
Yeah.
You are one step away from losing everything. Because, oh, by the way, you may not have it, and you and I both know, you're from Kentucky, you're from Eastern Kentucky, I'm from Southern West Virginia.
Yep.
We know a lot of these people that are screaming about lazy Democrats, and their asses don't do a damn thing but draw a friggin' check. I got a friend of mine I grew up with, ain't never held a job his entire life, and literally will look you in the face because now he's getting up there in age and his body's bothering him, and he'll look you in the face and say, well, you work your whole life, and then your body goes, I'm sitting up to my, really?
Yeah.
You never held a job in your life.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. That's liquor, man. I got to tell you, like so many of the people, where I was growing up, I could just see them starting on this like road to decay, and yet it was everybody else's fault. And the irony is that they would project it to places they have never set foot in. Like they won't go to a big city and hang out and do all these things, and unless Travis Tritt's doing a fucking residency. Right? Yeah, exactly. I'm like, go there. The irony is, Oregon State, for example, is a microcosm of exactly what you are talking about, because the entire state is by and large red. It might as well be Idaho, but it is paid for almost entirely by Portland. Like, it is simply that, like, the industry in and around that city and the economic drivers of that are what keep that state above Mississippi effectively. That's it. And like, don't get me started on the fact that Idaho and Montana and North and South Dakota, have got like, I don't know, a 17th the population of a bunch of, blue states that still we only get 2 senators. California's only got 2 senators. Montana's got 2 senators, and they got 500,000 people or whatever living in the whole state. So the idea that these guys are, the government's put us behind the 8 ball and we're paying for too much government. Hey, give up one of your senators. Save your, you're worried about tax dollars. And I want to talk about the farmer part right now, because this is like everything is a reboot with Trump. And last time, of course, he started this whole, trade war with China. Never got a deal out of it, by the way. The first phase of the deal that happened, that he dragged our response to COVID for months trying to get this deal done while Americans were dying. And he finally gets it. They're supposed to buy $50 billion / $15 billion because he had shit in his ears. Right? Because it was 15 and he thought it was 50 or whatever. They never bought 10, even though they need a bunch of it. They max out. They never met phase one of that deal. And then he's like, I don't even want to talk about it because of COVID. Like, you wouldn't have even wanted to talk about it without COVID because they never live up to it. Meanwhile, we get this this news thing, and I wish I could show it to you, but it'll be on the YouTube. Is this leaked text on Scott Besant's phone suggests the White House got played bailing out Argentina, and U.S. soybean farmers are the casualties. So we send $20 billion to bail out Argentina because they like Milei, and Milei likes Trump. And he's just basically paying off a buddy who showed up at TPUSA as a world leader having his back. And so we sent $20 billion to help bail them out, which, by the way, that's gone. That $20 billion isn't just loan guarantees.
Before the shutdown.
Yep, right before the shutdown. $20 billion out the door. And it's not loan guarantees. It's just cash. But, this whole thing about their pallets full of money, all that kind of crap that we always heard about Democrats. That's exactly what they're doing here. And then right at that same time, right before the shutdown, as they get this $20 billion, they make a huge sale of soybeans to China, which China would only be interested in buying because they're not buying U.S. soybeans because of this with Trump. And so Besant gets this, they get this over-the-shoulder shot of him on his phone with Brooke Rollins, who is, dumb as a circus peanut, and she's the private text on it. Scott Besant responded to Treasury Secretary's $20 billion bailout by turning around and removing its export taxes on soybeans and striking a huge deal with China that diminished the price of U.S. soybeans and weakened U.S. trade leverage with China, which immediately pulled out of its existing arrangements with soybean farmers in America. The photo was taken by Angelina Katsanis for the Associated Press, which is why Trump said they were a bad organization. It's exactly why he said it before. Finally, she wrote, "Finally, just a heads up, I'm getting more intel, but this is highly unfortunate." The text. "We bailed out Argentina yesterday, and in return, the Argentines are removing their export tariffs on grains, reducing their price, and sold a bunch of soybeans to China at a time when we would normally be selling to China. Soy prices are dropping further because of this. This gives China more leverage on us." A second message said, "On a plane, but Scott, I can call you when I land." It doesn't matter.
Make no mistake about it. Donald Trump will look past all this because that leader of Argentina is one of those Trump bootlickers.
Yep.
Donald Trump doesn't care that America's getting screwed over, and I will tell you, it's really hard for me because once again, the farmers supported Donald Trump in 2016 and he stabbed them all in the back. And then they voted for him again. Farmers went for Donald Trump in 2020, and in 2024, they voted for him again. And I'm just sitting here. Look, I don't want the farmers to lose their farms because make no mistake about it, they're losing their family's legacy. And oh, by the way, we all know that J.D. Vance is a part of a group that swoops in and buys them daggone farms out from under those farmers for pennies on the dollar. So I hate that. But where do we draw the line? Where do we finally say, look, you supported him in 2016 and he stabbed you in the back. You supported him again in 2024 and he did it to you again. And oh, by the way, now where are we at? We're where you guys are saying we want a bailout. Look, I don't want to see farmers go under, but you cannot continue to support somebody that stabs you in the back every chance they get and then expect for the American people to come to your rescue and bail you out again. There's a lot of people in this country right now that don't think like me. I am literally at the point where I'm like, you know what? Well, I don't want them to lose their farms. So I'm kind of leaning towards, I'm leaning towards a bailout for farmers because I don't want these people to lose everything.
Right.
But I'm also pissed off at the fact that you continue to support a man who doesn't give a shit about you. And if you look at what just happened with Argentina, and their soybeans, that is a direct punch in the face to every farmer. We had a $2 billion contract with China for soybeans that are gone now.
Yeah.
And those farmers are now watching their crops rot on the vine.
Right. And they were having a hard time
know,
finding help to actually, work the crops anyways, because Trump can't find all the illegals he's been trying to say. So he's been rounding up farm workers with no criminal record, women and children living in the States with their husbands, like family units, dragging these fucking farms for, like chasing people through fields as if they're the problem with this, because there are not 25 million more people in the country than there were when Biden took office or even when Trump took office. There just aren't. There are not. There are about 11 million undocumented people in the country at any given time. That number is basically unchanged because when people come in, other people go out. Like there's this cycle. People don't live forever. There's like people come to just temporarily work and go home all the time. And even if they do it under the table. And so this march of people from insane asylums, that's why Homan and all these assholes are having a hard time finding these people. That's why they're chasing one dude down the street. You got 9 fucking soldiers and guys in gear chasing down one dude who skipped out, by the way, on his court appearance because they already knew who he was. They already targeted him for renewal last year. It's just you follow through, and this would have happened anyways. So I will say on one instance, real quick, that if you'll notice, farmers in Argentina did not need a bailout. Farmers down there doing just fine. They have plenty of crops. They have plenty of people to work the farms down there. They have plenty of labor. They don't have a labor shortage around it, and it's low cost. And they were able to make this deal. Now, why would they need a bailout other than their economic reasons? Hold on one second. It's because of this, and I'm showing this on screen, but it says, Bitfarm halts Bitcoin mining in Argentina amid power supply suspension. That's why Don Jr. and Besant and more like Nutlick wanted to flood money into Argentina, is because there is a farming problem down there, and it's Bitcoin farming. They run a ton of hidden money, and they're doing a shit ton of money laundering. The entire Trump organization is no longer real estate. It's no longer in real estate. It is a money laundering organization. That's the backbone of their entire system, and that's where it's going. There's not going to be another Trump golf course or another fucking Trump building after he leaves office, because they're too easy to burn or set fire to or bomb, because he'll be a target for the rest of his life. But what his family business is going to be is crypto money laundering, and they're going to. That's it.
And they're getting away with it. But also this is another thing, is that the farmers are some of the first people to scream about socialism and people getting money from the government. We need to kick all these people on welfare off. And once again, you have your hands out just as much as anybody else has their hands out. It bothers me that we have allowed these people to vilify the least of us. But I'm going to tell you that those people are about to wake up, and they're going to get a rude awakening. And I don't like the fact that your guys are about to feel some serious pain. But you know what? We've got people in the country that cannot already. They still can't make the ends meet at the end of the month. And their food stamps are cutting half. Their SNAP benefits gone. No more free lunches for children. We're going to require a child to spend 8 hours a day in a classroom, but we're not going to feed that child.
Right.
I mean, that's how bad this country is at the moment. And look, I don't give two shits with anybody. You said this country was bad. We are. We're in a world of shit right now. We've got an administration that is nothing but a bunch of criminals who, even when they know what they are doing is illegal, they're still doing it. Donald Trump a judge told Donald Trump not 3 weeks ago that what you did in California and in Washington, D.C. is illegal against the Posse Comitatus Act. It's illegal. But what did Donald Trump, he's sending troops to Portland now. So once again, they don't give a shit. Tom Homan gets caught in a bribery scheme where they got video of him taking a paper bag full of $50,000 cash. But because he's in this administration, Patel
Yeah.
and Bondi shut it down.
Oh, yeah.
So these people can break the law, they can steal, they can lie, they can cheat, and they get a pass. But
Mm-hmm.
yet we're going to sit here, we're still going to bitch about shit that they've been screaming about Biden for the past 15 years, that they got no evidence whatsoever
Right.
to do anything. If they had the evidence, they would have done something. They would have arrested people.
That's
But
right.
they have no evidence. They
Nothing.
just spewed pure bullshit. And the very people that run with their stupid message the most are the poorest amongst
Mm-hmm.
us that live in Tennessee and Mississippi and Alabama. These are the people that are going to be hurt the worst, that are the biggest defenders of Donald Trump. And oh, by the way, you're pissed off that other people are getting a welfare check when you yourself are on some type of a government assistance. And I wish people would just shut up with that garbage.
Well, and again, you've got this large group of people who, even if they don't aren't on welfare themselves in a lot of these states, and you know this, that they're workers. Look at Walmart, for example. Walmart, pays so little in some of these areas that all their employees are on Medicaid, right? That the government subsidizes this business in a way that smaller businesses can't, and that shows up in the jobs numbers. So the U.S. economy lost 32,000 private sector jobs in September. They revised down the jobs. I'm going to see if I can find the actual number of like small company jobs versus like large company jobs, but small businesses lost the majority. There were 33,000 jobs gained in bigger businesses, but small businesses lost jobs. And that's what gave us the deficit of 50,000 jobs, ultimately 32,000 private sector jobs. The reality, there's a reason why that is, because these smaller companies can't outsource their benefits like the way Walmart can, because they don't have the protection racket of the local, the mayor, the city council going, oh, if Walmart goes away or whatever, we're screwed. So we got to tap dance around them as they do it. But a small business, we can go rattle their tree. And so a lot of these folks are on the hook for way more expenses to run their business than a larger business is, one-to-one.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
they gain jobs. People end up having to quit their smaller business jobs and going for a lower paying job somewhere else because of the benefits that they might get from a larger company, because of the government subsidies that company is getting that smaller businesses don't get. And Trump's like, I'm going to come in and help the forgotten man. And that's exactly who's getting hammered by this. And again, it's exactly who will get hammered by the government shutdown too.
Yep. I will tell you that when I was a state senator in West Virginia, I was invited to tour a facility called Health Right. Mm-hmm. And Health Right is a wonderful, organization and I'm sure it's all over the country, but in West Virginia, in the capital city of Charleston, I went, and when I first got there, I thought I was going to walk in and see just a bunch of homeless people sitting in all the chairs and stuff. And that was not what I saw. What I saw was people that actually work. They work at Wendy's and McDonald's and Walmart and places like that do not offer them the health care that they need for their families. So they have to go to a place like Health Right. You have dentists that volunteer 1 day a week to work on anybody's mouth that walks through the door.
Yep.
You've got doctors that volunteer to check people out.
My mom gives shots on behalf of state home health services. They go to state fairs and all this stuff and give people vaccinations and the like.
Yep.
My dad's friend, Harry Bickle, bless his heart, the guy who gave me my first electric guitar because he had it in his attic and didn't want it there anymore. Harry Bickle's a dentist in Louisville, Kentucky, and he dedicates a portion of his practice to Appalachians every year. He packs his shit in his car and drives down there and volunteers and helps people pulling rotten teeth, and some of which, by the way, are in kids where their teeth have rotted in their gums before they even have come through because their parents are putting Mountain Dew in their fucking baby bottles. Right.
Yep.
And he goes down there and does that work for free for those folks. Yeah. And I guarantee when the Republicans talk about how they bootstrap their states and how Kentucky doesn't need all this government funding, they don't do it because people like Harry Bickle and DDS and my mom, who's a nurse, go down there and volunteer to pick up the slack. That's
Yeah.
why. They don't get
Yeah.
thanks for that. They're not getting awards. They're not getting patted
Yeah.
on the back by
And that's
Rand Paul and that
and
crowd.
people don't realize that, that the reason why they exist is because of the shortfalls in our government,
Right.
and the fact that we absolutely have no problem allowing Walmart, who is coming from the Walton family, which is one of the richest families on the face of the earth.
Right.
We literally, this is a family that literally splits $1 billion a day. They literally split $1 billion a day amongst their family members, and yet we are the ones that have to pay addition because they don't pay their people enough or provide those people with the benefits. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that we should be fighting in the
Right.
halls of Congress.
Right.
And look, that's what I'm saying. We need more people in Congress that are willing to step up and speak the truth and call these people out, man.
That's right. And that's why people need to go to jenniferNC.com and check out the website and volunteer or donate if they can. Here's what I would argue. It is one thing when a company doesn't pay its proper taxes and that's an argument we've had a lot of times about paying their fair share and all that. It's a great conversation, needs to be had. But it's even worse when you've got a company that doesn't do that and relies on taxpayer dollars to keep their business afloat. One of the things that Trump has attacked on renewable energy, for example, is the subsidies or the tax breaks that the voters, by the way, have decided they need because we want this transition and we want this to happen. So to get these businesses off the ground and get on an even playing field with oil and gas, they're going to need subsidies for a while. Because oil and gas had subsidies in the early days. We wouldn't have a gas station on practically every corner if it wasn't for the U.S. taxpayer. We paid to make that infrastructure possible. We supported it. We support it every day. Like, one of the things they always talk about is like the price of oil and gas in England by, selling it by the liter and how expensive it is versus how cheap it is in the United States. It's not cheap. We offset the cost with tax dollars. We subsidize oil and gas companies to keep the day-to-day cost of that gas down so that industry, by and large trucks and diesel, is sold at a lower price so that the fuel of the economy doesn't dry up. That's essentially it. Like whether you buy the products at Walmart or not, you're paying for them because Walmart started as a trucking company. They don't make anything. As a matter of fact, they are the biggest conduit for Chinese goods into the United States that exists far beyond Amazon. Yeah. Walmart.com is a bigger sales point than Amazon is. It literally, there's more funding that goes to it. Everybody thinks of Amazon because that's the one that gets kind of the news as far as, online buying. Walmart sells far more things online than Amazon does. It is right up there, and it owns the trucking. That's how it started. And the subsidy for gas prices, and the extra subsidies that they get with their workers, that the U.S. taxpayer gives them to give their workers benefits, we're basically carrying Walmart. Whether you buy anything or not, you are a customer of Walmart. You make sure that that business is sustained.
Your tax dollars are what's used.
Without it, that business would have failed a long time ago or broken up into 5 different companies.
Yeah, and I'm going to tell you, I think about, Welch, which is in McDowell County, West Virginia.
Yep.
Walmart showed up and built a facility, and every single mom and pop store could not compete with Walmart, so they all basically closed down and picked up and left. And then Walmart decided to shut their doors. And now those people that live in McDowell County usually have to wait for the beginning of the month where a lot of them get their checks because a lot of people are on government assistance. They fill up their cars and they drive to the next county over because that's where you can buy groceries. That's where you can buy stuff for your kids because there's nowhere in McDowell County unless you want to go to the Dollar General. And let me tell you something, Dollar Generals are popping up on every single corner. especially in areas where poverty is the highest.
Yeah.
And people are buying their milk, their bread from those Dollar Generals, and their prices are going up too. So
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's sad. It's so sad that we. I love this country. I gave 24 years of my life to this military, but it really drives me up a wall that I travel all over the world, and I go to places that offer
Mm-hmm.
benefits to their people that
Mm-hmm.
we in America just can't or just refuse to.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so sad. It kills me that we will sit there and beat our chests and say we're number one.
Right.
And because why? Because we can whip you,
Mm-hmm.
and because that's the only thing in terms of if you said, okay, what is the America the best at? Yeah, we're the best at war fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And once again, don't count Iraq and Afghanistan. We won every single fight. We never lost a battle
Mm-hmm.
anywhere, no matter to what.
Right. It was the
But
mission that was
other
the
than that,
problem, not
yeah, yeah,
not the capability. Right. And
exactly.
to that point, that I have said for a while that there are no partisan issues. There are only partisan solutions. And in a lot of ways, if you cede ground that you areas you refuse to address that are clearly, that's how populists roll in. If you don't deal with a problem, if you don't deal with a challenge that you have, or at least openly let people know what you're doing, then they will think you're not doing anything. And if all somebody has to do is roll in with a big bag of fear, and they'll snatch up that voting block because they're afraid. Like Democrats think open borders, right? And therefore they want you to be murdered. So anytime they have somebody who's killed by an illegal immigrant who comes into the country, they can use that to paste it across every person in here who's, by the way,
And they
working
do.
under the table. The vast majority of most people's Americans' experience will always be cheaper prices because of illegal immigration. That's honestly it. Their real experience, not what they see on Twitter, not what they see on the nightly news of somebody killed in Georgia, months ago that everybody's touting their name all over the place. Your real experience is you're not paying like $8 for a tomato. That's your real experience every single day. And when you start brooming these things out, and Trump promised to lower prices on day one and all that kind of stuff, and then he goes through and he goes, I got to get rid of all these illegal immigrants. What's the direct response? The price of goods and groceries will go up. You know who owns Dollar General store, by the way? It's a private equity firm called KKR. But you know who their partners are? Citigroup and what's the other one? BlackRock, Goldman Sachs. Goldman Sachs and Citigroup own it. Think about branding. Think about who owns what and what makes sense. And you go, okay, who's actually making money on these kind of things, or who would brand what they're doing? Cracker Barrel and the like. They all these Southerners think of Cracker Barrel, which is this farce, this fucking phony, like fake general store. It's like one of the restaurants at Disneyland. It's not a down home place. It's a fucking chain, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like when they changed the logo on that, and this became like a national, and Democrats and liberals are trying to undermine Cracker Barrel by taking the fucking cracker off the thing. Never mind the fact that it was a barrel full of crackers was the idea, like not the fat dude in the rocking chair. That's the crack. These motherfuckers, Benny Johnson and the rest of them, thought that was the cracker they were talking about. Are you nuts? Like that, honest to God. It's
white cracker.
Yeah, that's right. They thought they took the cracker away because they were ashamed of the crackers. Well, first of all, cracker is a derogatory term for white people that come from whip cracker, meaning that most white people are slave owners, and so it's not meant to be a compliment. And maybe they like to think of it that way. Maybe they do think of it that way. I mean, and I wouldn't doubt it.
It's our heritage.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's like, it goes right up there with the fucking, the Dukes of Hazzard car. But the point is, it's a chain. I don't give a shit about any of that. It's a chain that is traded on Wall Street. Like, I don't even, Cracker Barrel, I haven't even bothered to look this up. Let's see who owns Cracker Barrel. as a subsidiary. Yeah, it's a publicly traded one. CBRL, it's traded as on the stock exchange. Cracker Barrel Old Country Store. Major shareholders include BlackRock, Vanguard, and GMT Capital. The three biggest shareholders for Cracker Barrel are BlackRock, Vanguard, and GMT Capital. The rest of it's all like, fucking E-Trade and Robinhood rednecks.
Wow.
Yeah. So the idea that this is like some sort of like, they're taking away our heritage. Do you have any idea how easily bullshitted you are to think that that's your fucking heritage? That a BlackRock subsidiary that sells like, again, yeah, go ahead.
But I mean, you know what? That's what really kills me is these are the same people that are like, oh, the liberals are always crying.
Right.
And then they become the biggest crybabies for the most ludicrous reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Cracker Barrel decides to change its logo and they lose their shit, like you said, and they, once again, they think that guy is the cracker. It's the white cracker.
Yeah, right.
But
unbelievable.
It's like you want to die on that ground.
Yes, they do.
How they are.
Well, what and again, doing that, arguing about Cracker Barrel and the fucking logo of Cracker Barrel is what they have to argue about to A, avoid talking about the Epstein files, and B, avoid the fact that prices have not come down, that jobs are disappearing, that Biden had a much better unemployment numbers than Trump will ever have, and that, by the way, the people around Trump want high unemployment. They don't want labor to have leverage. They don't want that employers to be looking for employees so much so that you have your pick. They don't want that.
Yeah,
it's bad for business.
You're absolutely right. And that's the thing, though. It's the base of Donald Trump is so easily duped.
Right.
And that's it. That's it.
He loves the uneducated.
Everybody right now should be like, okay, so we just bailed out Argentina, gave them $20 billion before we do a government shutdown. And what does Argentina do? They sell their soybeans to China, which is a direct stab in the back to American farmers. But yet, it's so easy for the Republicans to say anything and blame it on the Democrats. And these same people will run with it. I mean, these people are so gullible. It's dangerous that these people are so easily duped and because make no mistake about it, when this comes to an end, I'm going to tell you right now how this ends. When Donald Trump falls below 33%, and the Republicans start to realize that he cannot come back, he's at 37, 33 is, I guess, the magical number. But, they are literally, when Donald Trump feels that he is done and that the Republican Party is finally cutting ties with him, he will call on every single Trump supporter to take up arms to defend him. Make no mistake about it. Donald Trump is that guy that will call for his people to take up arms. People will die. People will be murdered in the streets because Donald Trump does not want to be held accountable for the crimes that he has committed. And yep, he's all over the Epstein files. We already know that, and everybody knows that. And his administration is nothing but a bunch of crooks. And every single one of them should also face charges when this is over with for the crimes that they have committed, period. I mean, this administration is going to need to be held accountable. And I'm telling you right now, it's coming. It's coming.
And I got to tell you, it's going to be J.D. Vance who's signing the pardons. I'm just going to call it right now.
But make no mistake about it. You better believe that. But once again, J.D. Vance is absolute pure trash.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance knows exactly what Donald Trump is. J.D. Vance is one of those people that will speak the truth about somebody, but the moment somebody dangles a carrot in front of him, he will completely say, oops, I'm sorry, I didn't really say that, and lick their boots. J.D. Vance is a bootlicking worm. He's not from Appalachia. He's from the middle of friggin' Ohio. He's a lying sack of shit. You and I are from Appalachia. JD Vance is not. And once
Right.
again, JD Vance is a part of a group that are swooping in and buying these farmers' farms out from under them,
That's right.
basically taking their legacies from them.
Yeah.
And these people, JD Vance will be the one that will pardon a lot of these people. And let me tell you something, JD Vance will never be able to win in 2028 ever, because he was a tie-breaking vote in this
Right.
big, horrible bill that's kicking 17 million people off of their health care, that's firing 86,000 VA workers. I'm going to tell you right now, they know that 2028, they're done. And I don't think Donald Trump's going to last. I think Donald Trump is going to end up being thrown out of office in the very near future, because 37%, the magic number's 33. And once he hits that 33, those Lindsey Grahams and those guys that bootlick for Donald Trump, they're going to start trying to save their asses, because they know they're next.
So I would suggest, and by the way, I want to remind everybody, go to ojedafornc.com and help in any way you can with the campaign, which is doing great, by the way. I feel like you're going to do great in the primary, no question. And then you have a real chance at flipping this seat red, or this red seat blue. And I've said this the whole time. And I know that people are like, almost habitually we got to hold people to the fire thing. But as far as I'm concerned, until we have 60 votes in the Senate and 60% of the House, we got one job. Red districts purple, purple districts blue. And if we can if we can skip any step, it's the middle one. I don't need bluer districts bluer. I need red districts to be blue. Period. That has to be the goal, because it's all about a numbers game right now. If we had simply held on to 8 seats, there is so much damage we could have undone in this process. And if we had touted the successes of the Biden administration and the Obama administration, instead of always undercutting ourselves and infighting about it, we would have been well far ahead. What Trump would have been, if he even got into office at all, would have been dealing with an actual impeachment that would have actually kicked him out of office in the first term. So I'm not playing like this whole like infighting garbage that we hear around a lot of people, or even, bless his heart, Mom Donnie, if he wins, terrific in New York, it's a mayor's office in a blue city. I'm not impressed. I love AOC, but she turned a blue district blue. It didn't matter at all to our voting block at all. And like, I don't, at this point, honestly, it's just any blue on blue is a waste of time. What I will say though, is that when we're running in 2028, one of the big things that I think Democrats can really start pushing is, we're going to look into insider trading that happened during the Trump administration. And if anybody lost their fucking farm because of a strategy put forward to help JD Vance and these guys, that was a fraudulent sale. That was,
AOC, I'm sorry. Marge the Trainwreck Green went from a $700,000 net worth to $22 million.
That's right.
Overnight.
Yep.
Yeah.
So,
by the way, we should make a law that says members of Congress cannot play stocks.
Right.
Period.
Exactly. Yep. And I will say that if we find out, and I believe we will, and it's not even a matter of if we know, we'll know, but if we can, prove it, and there's evidence that they strategically coordinated the collapse of these farms so that they could swoop in and buy them, or small businesses and the like, to help basically create these, these megacorps and help big agribusiness scoop up these farms, then I would say nullify those sales and give those farms back to the people that they were taken from.
Yep.
That was theft. And that the people who arranged it should go to jail. Vance and all of his buddies, they need to spend time in prison. And that everybody who was defrauded out of their farm and had it, their loans undermined, their ability to sell their crop undermined on purpose by the administration and members in the administration, should get their farms back.
Yeah, the only infighting that we're going to see in Washington, D.C. with the Democratic Party is if we've got Democrats that aren't willing to fight fire with fire, that aren't willing to push legislation to right the wrongs of this current administration and go after a lot of these people in this current administration for the crimes that they are committing, like Tom Holman. Yep. I'm going to tell you right now, look, I'm a Democrat. I want to see some things get done. And I don't want to get us in Washington, D.C. and watch a bunch of people start dragging their damn feet.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Republicans, when they're in power, they are doing things that are hurting everybody. Just like you said, I don't give two shits about flooding AOC's district with more money because she's going to win that blue district anyway.
Yep.
We should be focusing on these red areas. My state, North Carolina, which is considered basically purple now. We have a Democrat governor, Secretary of State,
Right.
Lieutenant governor. You know, we're looking good there. But I'm going to tell you, we have a lot of red seats that are in jeopardy right now. We have Chuck Hubbard running against Fox. He's got a really good shot of defeating her. I'm running against Richard Hudson, the daggone head of the NRCC. But I'm going to tell you, my race was an R plus 22. It's an R plus 8 now. I almost won an R plus 54 in West Virginia. An R plus 8 don't mean nothing to me. I'm putting boots on the ground every single day. People are recognizing me. I'm going where Richard Hudson has never been. People don't know what he looks like. I'm busting my ass because I'm going to flip this seat from red to blue. And if you want somebody in Washington, D.C. that's going to fight for the people of this country, then look no further than this guy.
Yes.
But once again, if you go to ojeda4nc.com, look, I got some cool merchandise, some really nice shirts, koozies, coffee mugs, stickers, magnets, but you can also donate to my campaign. And make no mistake about it, $5 gives me 2 campaign signs. And I put those 2 campaign signs in areas where everybody drives by and they start going, that Ojeda guy. And then they research me. And once they research me, they usually like what they see.
That's right.
Folks, I appreciate you. Let me tell you something. I am so glad to be back. So glad to be back on your show, Hal. I have missed it. It's an education every time I come on here. Anybody out there that's not sharing this and convincing other people to watch this, you got to get off your backsides, folks. We got to get people to work. So
thank you,
brother. I appreciate you. As always, it's always a pleasure.
Ojeda4nc.com. Please check out the website. Get yourself a drink koozie, and then donate to the campaign. And then we're all going to hit the phones for you when the time comes. Very excited for you and proud of the work that you're doing.
All right, brother. Thank you, man.
Right.
I appreciate y'all.
Absolutely. Cheers. All right, there he goes. Let me. I've got Philip Ittner over here. Let me bring him in. There we go. And swap people out. I mean, obviously, it's curious right now. I think that that we have. Let me give you 1 second. Let me pop this in there. That the insofar as I know, the Ukrainian government is actually working right now. It's they're open for business. They're doing their thing. That's so funny. The turn is so obvious. Hi, how are you, Phil? Good to see you. Welcome, host of On the Edge.
Good.
Please subscribe to his channel as well. At Philip Ittner, 1 L 2 T's and Ittner. Where do we even get started? We're on a shutdown right now, which it feels like it's part of the Hippocratic oath right now as far as the Trump administration. First, do no harm. So I guess technically right now they can't do things that are worse. Declaring an emergency is pretty much the only way he's getting by, putting troops in the streets. And it's also how he's sending ships to Argentina. It's also, so everything's an emergency. And I guess when you shut down the government,
how he's keeping the Epstein files
hidden
from being released, because of course,
national
what's
security.
the representative from Arizona who should be it's Arizona, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah, we have a Democrat
should be sworn in
in a special election,
and she would be the deciding vote in releasing the Epstein files. So that's always fun. Yeah, all we have is a little war.
That's all. Yeah, just that.
Just that.
Yeah. So, first of all, what's it been there like these last few days since we spoke on Saturday?
We spoke on Saturday, and probably about 2 or 3 hours after we spoke, we began a 12-hour period of intense attack, and we're just absolutely pelted. For nonstop for 12 hours, and a lot of it, not exclusively, but a lot of it focused on Kiev, and
Hmm.
I think the body count now, well, probably it's probably been more than that. But the
Hmm.
last time I checked on like Monday or yesterday, Tuesday, um, my time, it was still a 3 dead body count, but it was a lot of wounded
Hmm.
and a lot of severe damage to the city, and a lot of anti-aircraft, uh, you know,
Right.
use, which is always, you know, disturbing.
Yeah.
And a lot of people seeking shelter. And I mean, I had a drone, a couple of drones exploded right outside my window, basically.
Hmm.
Well, I say right outside my balcony. I got up and looked outside of my balcony, which is not the smartest thing to do, but regardless,
Right.
um, I took a quick look outside my window, and yeah, I saw 2 drones explode over a district, probably about 2 districts over from where I am in the city.
Right.
Um,
Oh,
so it was intense. It
so
was
yeah,
intense.
one of the things that I think stood out for a lot of people, and there's been like I think uh, Orban actually talked about shooting down Russian drones that cross into European territory. That Trump kind of saying he's disappointed with Putin or whatever has a cascading effect on people, feeling comfortable saying stuff. And one of the reasons why, beyond Trump saying that and his little pissing contest with Medvedev, is that they are using oil tankers in their shadow fleet to launch drones to pester European countries, to shut down their airports, to cause, basically to be spoilers. So France sees this Russian shadow fleet tanker Pushpa that was launching drones at Copenhagen that shut down the Copenhagen airport. So there was this Russian oil tanker off the coast of France that Russia was using as a military vessel. Was that you? That sounded like
Yeah.
an alarm. Yeah.
No. There's a cop car out there.
Okay. All right.
Uh,
Yeah. So
yeah.
they have interdicted the shadow tanker Pushpa off the coast of France. The vessel carrying 115,000 tons of oil is suspected of launching drones that shut down the Copenhagen airport. Russia is running out of battle options and is trying this, like, it's such a bizarre tactic to try and I
Yeah.
guess undermine the economies of these countries, just pester the people into doing this, or maybe signal to spoilers that
The
they have an interest.
general consensus
Mm-hmm.
is that they are trying to frighten um, European Union nations, NATO
Mm-hmm.
nations, but specifically larger EU nations.
Right.
They're trying to frighten them into a place where they start to spend more money on weapons and not social programs,
Right.
which is, of course, one of the great benefits of being in the European Union is that you get free healthcare and you get a social
Right.
safety net, and they spend a lot of money on things that uh, aren't focused on national defense because, frankly,
Mm-hmm.
they know that the Americans are going to be there to
Right.
back them up. And with Trump now withdrawing from Europe, they're starting to
Emboldened.
have to think about, well, they're starting to have to think about spending money on their own
Yeah.
defenses. And that's exactly what Russia wants them to do, because then it puts stress on social society, and people are like, well, why are we spending money on weapons when we can just make peace with Moscow? And
Mm-hmm.
it's not going to work. Not going to work, not least of which because the Europeans, um, they see what's happening in Ukraine. There's a huge section of the EU that has a standing legacy and a
Right.
historical remembrance of what it's like to be attacked by Moscow.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are Polish, if you are Romanian, Bulgarian, Czech, take your pick at the Baltics, take your pick at the Scandinavian nations, they
Right.
know exactly what it is to be uh, an adversary of Moscow. So they're,
Mm-hmm.
they enjoyed having American protection, but it
Right.
doesn't mean that they forgot what it means to be threatened by Moscow. So my personal opinion is that this tactic is not going to work at all.
Mm-mm.
Um, and also Russia is not doing well. It's
Right. It's
stressed.
yes.
It's stressed to an extreme point, and you know they're not really doing well militarily within Ukraine.
Mm-hmm.
Ukraine's strength is actually getting stronger. They're getting more domestic military industrial strength, and they're also getting improved support from Europe. And I mean, and they're getting the Tomahawk. I mean, I never thought that was
Yeah.
going to happen.
Right.
I never thought that the Americans would give Ukraine the Tomahawk missile, but apparently that's either imminent or already happening.
Mm-hmm.
And that means, I mean, the Tomahawk is a system that it is it is
Mm-hmm.
preeminent. It probably is the best cruise missile in the world. The newly developed Flamingo cruise missile, which was created here in Ukraine, carries a heavier warhead, and it has a further distance, but it is not as pinpoint or as sophisticated in terms of evading anti-air systems.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that. So it's like the Tomahawk was developed in the 90s,
Right.
and it was developed with the best of American technology.
Yeah.
The Flamingo, which is the new Ukrainian thing, is using more current technology, but it doesn't have the backup systems that the Tomahawk has, nor does it have the sophistication of, as I say, the air defense capability.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, if you were to force me to say what's a better system, I would say probably the Tomahawk.
Yeah.
Um, and it's amazing that they are going to be giving them to the Ukrainians. So we'll see. Look,
Yeah.
and also we are going into autumn and winter.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to go through the Rasputitsa, which is when everything turns to mud, and then we're going to
Right.
turn into frozen, very
Yeah.
cold temperature situations where you're going to have frozen ground, so you can't dig in. And not only that, if you're going to move armor, they're capable of falling through the kind of surface ice and
Mm-hmm.
into the muck. It's just both fall or autumn and winter are bad times to fight here.
Yeah.
So that is coming now,
As Hitler found out. I'd like to,
as Hitler found
but
out,
yeah, I'd like
or
to
Napoleon.
point out a couple of things. One of the things is like last year, I think it was in December when this article came out. Yeah, that there was this kind of like infighting amongst the upper leadership of the Kremlin about the direction of the war and all this kind of stuff. And obviously, it stops before it gets to Putin, I suppose. But that their economy was so bad that they had to hire Tucker Carlson to come in and do like a lifestyles of the rich and and decadent in Moscow and St. Petersburg, just to sell this idea that things it's fine. They're doing great. It literally, if you look backwards at the actual economic data that's coming out right now and that was on the horizon but last year, it is abundantly clear that Tucker Carlson either was paid to or ideologically went there to do them a solid, probably both. And that what the purpose of his little gaggle with Putin was, and the promise of having an interview to give him some legitimacy for his brand new channel, was to sell that the economy of Russia is going gangbusters. They don't need the rest of the world. They never did. And screw you guys. We're kicking
Impervious
ass.
to sanctions.
Right, exactly. That was specifically what that was all about. Everything else he said around, any historical context, any Nazis in Ukraine nonsense that he was throwing in for good measure, the purpose of that entire, I don't even know if I call it a documentary, but the purpose of that interview and the subsequent little snippet shows he put up was strictly as a sales pitch that Russia's doing fine, and that it might as well have just been a tourist video. Like, come on and visit Russia. It's perfect right now. Come in, the water's fine. That's what the purpose of it was, and it didn't work. And so Russia is shrinking their military budget in the middle of a war when they're on a war footing. That never happens unless you're looking for the door. That's the kind of thing the United States was doing at the end of Vietnam. That's the kind of arguments we're having in the last 10 years of Afghanistan, where people were trying to, maybe if we squeeze the money, the generals won't feel like they can accomplish this, and then they'll start thinking realistically about our military goals inside the country. Like that kind of civilian versus military leadership thing. But the problem is in the Kremlin, they're completely intertwined. So it's just they're just going to lock arms and sink. And that's what's happening. They never had the money to start with. There's this story about how they got $9 billion worth of fighting materials and people from North Korea, but they only paid them 1.2. That North Korea got shafted effectively on this. Here it is. This is the North Korea armed Russia for almost $10 billion, receiving 8 times less in return. That North Korea was providing Russia with weapons, ammunition, and military personnel worth about $9.8 billion as part of agreements to support the war against Ukraine. At the same time, Moscow's compensation, what they paid directly to North Korea, was $1.2 billion approximately.
And their story is now that they're importing refined oil, so petrol or gasoline. I mean, This is an oil producing nation because they can't sell, having to import gasoline, and that's just insane. I mean, we've seen the images of on Russian Telegram, on Russian Telegram channels, which shows lines of cars out there for. I love that Tucker visit, because there were so many. The one thing that I love. There's lots of things I love about that trip, because it revealed how absolutely ignorant he is. But it was the trip to the metro,
right?
And we've spoken about this before, but I'll say it again. It was not a mistake that his handlers took him to Kievskaya Vokzal, which is Kiev metro station. Every metro station in Moscow has a theme. Every single one has a theme, and they took Tucker to the metro station, which kind of glorified Moscow's dominion over Ukraine, and all the murals and everything in the background are all just this kind of Soviet Moscow propaganda of these poor little, farmers out in Ukraine who were subjugated by the Nazis, and we went and saved them, and the Bolshevik revolution was exported to Ukraine. And all the murals are these little like
Mm-hmm.
peasant Ukrainians and
Right.
these great
Being
kind of
helped by
like
these strong-jawed Soviet
big,
blonde-haired
strong
Slavs.
jawed. Yeah,
Right. Looking
exactly.
at
These,
staring into the sun like Donald Trump at an
yeah,
eclipse. Right.
yeah. And it goes to show that the misunderstanding of the character of Ukrainian people
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just go back to Putin and his like KGB saying, "Yeah, sure, come on in. It'll be a 3-day war. You can bring your dress uniforms. We'll be greeted as liberators, and we can
Mm-hmm.
march down the streets of Kiev." And it goes lockstep in the idea of like, you have no idea what this country is about. You really think that you have. It's like if you go to Ireland. If you go to Ireland and you go to certain churches in Ireland, there are rings on the pillars
Mm-hmm.
of the churches because when Cromwell, who was a staunch, like ultra,
Mm-hmm.
Protestant guy, turned their Catholic churches into stables,
Right.
and the legacy still existed. It would be like Tucker being there and being like, "Look at these amazing rings on
Rings.
these.
Right.
Oh
Right.
my God, they're so
Yeah.
amazing. You could hang flowers. You could hang, incense burners. I mean, how amazing are these rings?" And
Mm-hmm.
an Irishman sitting there and going, "Motherfucker, that's where they tied up their horses to degrade us of our Catholic churches."
Right.
I mean, it's just a massive lack of understanding of the fact that for
Or
500 years this country has been colonized by Moscow, and that
or
goes deep.
yes. Or it's also a sorry, 1 second. We're getting a echo. We're good. Okay, I'll work on it. Uh or if I may, he's aware that his viewers are that ignorant of it and is selling that, assuming they will
Yeah,
never look
either way.
past it.
Yeah, either way. Either way. But I mean, it is the point of being like, I am going to glorify the imperialism of a colonial master
Mm-hmm.
to its subjugate, and the people watching it sitting there who have been the subjugate of a colonizing power sitting there and going, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
wait a minute."
Yeah.
I mean, I've said it before a million times, and I am not ignorant of our own history.
Mm-hmm.
Americans, having been a colonized people, hate the idea of imperialism, especially when we engage in it.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's the speed note. It's anti-imperialism. It is
Mm-hmm.
anti-slavery advocates. When
Abolitionists. Yeah.
abolitionists who were trying to work it into the Constitution at the very birth of our nation. We are a nation of contradictions, but at
Mm-hmm.
least for Christ's sakes, we recognize it. And the better of us try to make it better, right?
Right.
What we as Americans don't understand is there's been long periods of time, and the British broke away from their imperialism and are very embarrassed by the imperialism, but they at least recognize it. The Russians, as a
Mm-hmm.
contradiction, are not only ashamed of their former imperialism, they want to restore their imperialism. They're very, very proud of their imperialism. They think that it's a good thing that Russia, as an empire, as a culture, as a white nationalist Christian identity grows. I mean, it's the
Right.
old thing of Putin had that uh, like celebration of youth,
Right.
scholastic achievement, and he has this kid where he's like, "I know all the borders, and I know all
Mm-hmm.
the capitals and all the I'm a 10-year-old
Mm-hmm.
geography prodigy."
Right.
And Putin says, "What are the borders of Russia?" And the kid goes, "Oh, Russia is in the west. It is bordered by Kaliningrad on the Baltic Sea, and it is bordered by Vladivostok on the Pacific." And Putin goes, "Russia has no borders." It's
Right.
like, okay, there we are.
Yeah.
That's the deal. They're
Yeah.
still very imperialistic, and as the great now British BOC professor Timothy Snyder, who used to be, I think, Harvard or Yale, but one of our best professors when it comes to understanding Ukraine, understanding Russia and the former Soviet sphere.
Right.
He said, all empires have to have a defeat.
Yeah.
They have to go through that process of of losing an imperial war and
Right.
then having to look in the mirror. And Russia has never really had to do that. Even the wars, the Second World War, where they had the struggle with the invasion and then subsequently conquered, not liberated, conquered Eastern Europe, or whether it is the great loss of the First World War. They have never, and then the rise of the Soviet Union, which divested itself from the legacy of the Russian Empire. They've never actually had to get to a point where they've looked in the mirror and said, "Yeah, you know what? Let's just stay within our borders.
Right.
Let's recognize that expansion and empire is not a good thing for us." They still very much live in the idea that having an empire is beneficial to Moscow. And they're going to lose that. I mean, they're going to lose that in this war. It is a fait accompli. It's already done. It's just how many more Ukrainians and Russians have to die.
Right.
Now, as you pointed out, they're trying to expand this to other European nations because this is a do or die project for Moscow, and it's a do or die project for Putin. So if they can expand this and terrify Western nations into thinking, "Oh my God, we're going to get into a third world war with Moscow," that they might be able to negotiate some sort of, the threat of an expansion of the war, that they might be able to negotiate some
Do you
sort of
think,
deal where,
right? Do you think that's the fear
yeah,
that they're trying to institute with these drone strikes and these shutting
yeah,
down airports is like trying to spook people
yeah,
into thinking the war's on their doorstep and like we weren't involved in this and now we are and try to get. And by the way, I would
and
no
the
doubt that there's fake
and
citizens.
drones into Poland,
Yeah. Right.
drones into Romania. Yeah, no, it's all about, like, you're going to have to start spending more money on military expenditures instead of keeping your people happy with social expenditures, that they're hoping that they're going to intimidate other European governments into being like, let's just, whatever it is, let's just end this war. Let's everybody calm down, everybody stop. And I don't think it's gonna work.
Right.
I don't think it's gonna work for a variety of reasons.
Well, also,
Again, not least of which because a lot of these countries remember what it is to be constantly under threat by
right.
Moscow.
One of the things that also came up, see if I can bring this up, that Admiral Kellogg said, he was asked on the news, are you saying, though, that it's the president's position that Ukraine can conduct long-range strikes into Russia that has been authorized by the president? And Kellogg said, I think reading what he has said and reading what Vice President Vance has said, as well as Secretary Rubio, the answer is yes. Use the ability to hit deep. There are no such things as sanctuaries. That one of the things about this macho posturing bullshit that Hegseth is engaged in is that it's hard to back down from it. And if you're not getting what you want from your promises that he was going to end this war in a day and, Putin's your buddy and he was going to throw the war just so that you could get good press and a Nobel Peace Prize, and suddenly he's not doing it, then fuck him. And that seems to be the position that they're now currently in. That there are, if you invade a country, and it's hard to parse his talking points around Gaza, for example, against the backdrop of Ukraine. Somehow, after October 7th, Israel can do whatever it wants inside Gaza, can flatten entire city blocks. It can, roof knocks, but still, right, is driving down these, it's attacking civilian areas because that's where the enemy's hiding, whatever. But it's hard to say it's okay for them to do that, but somehow Ukraine's got to hold back, right? And so they're stuck there in that place.
Yeah, and I also think they have another problem, and I think it is that they are coming to the realization that actually Ukraine's industrial military complex is getting to a place where, like, we're going to do this with or without you,
right?
And which side do you want to be on? I mean, again, those who haven't seen last week's episode of On the Edge, it was an hour-long interview with a guy who works on drone technology,
right?
And they're better than us. They have better drones than us. I mean, like,
yeah, right,
a lot better, like autonomous drones. I mean, it's almost a little bit, disturbing how autonomous these drones are getting to be. But they are literally. They are probably 2 or 3 generations ahead of us in their drone technology, and that's not hyperbole. We do big drones. We do the Predator system, and we do they do stuff that changes the entire landscape of the battlefield. They are getting to a point where about a 25-kilometer distance on either side of the border of the battle line front line is controlled by soon to be fully autonomous drones, and we're nowhere near that. Ukrainians are better at drones than we are.
Right.
They've had to be.
Right.
They've had to be, and they have developed under fire. And that is a huge catalyst for development. And they're getting to a point, and then again they have one of the best cruise missiles in the world, only because, really, to be fair, only because they've developed it within the last 18 months, two years sort of thing, and they use the very latest technology, whereas we have probably, I mean, our Tomahawks are better than their Flamingos, but that's only because that we really put some oomph into the development of the Tomahawk, whereas the Flamingo was kind of built because they needed it at the moment. But nevertheless, the Ukrainian military is one of the best militaries in the world. I mean, I have no conservation in saying that. They are one of the best, and I think that Kellogg in particular, has gotten to the point where he's like, we'd rather have these guys on our side.
Yes, right.
Than to be.
It's not even want; it's about need now. Because again, what's the ROI? What's the ROI on backing Russia in this particular instance? Especially if you're aware, there's no value in it. Even for Trump at this point, it seems that is starting. Whether it's because of his meme coin money or whatever it is, or the fact that the P tape is nothing compared to what's in the Epstein files. And so he would welcome a distraction where he had hookers in a hotel room and they peed on a bed where Obama slept. His own supporters would high five each other about that compared to what's in the Epstein files. So that at this point, I mean, unless there's something else we don't know about, right? Unless there's something, more damaging in there that Putin has against him, but it doesn't seem to be. And if at this point, maybe, for all we know, Trump has used the technology and the personnel of the United States to send fucking spies or people into the Kremlin to get rid of all the compromise that Russia might have against him and his buddies, right?
Sure.
And it happened.
Sure, and he knows for sure that if the war were to end tomorrow, Putin would be
ousted.
I mean,
he'd be dead.
Well, he wouldn't be
likely.
ousted. He'd be dead. He'd be dead. He'd be dead. He would suddenly develop some sort of medical emergency, and he would be gone within a week.
Right.
You know, and I think he knows that. I still, as you know, am very firmly of the mind that Trump is compromised by the GRU.
Sure.
But America is a stronger country than Russia. And if Trump can be successful in overturning the government in Russia, then that threat, whatever Putin is hanging over his head, whatever the GRU is hanging over his head, it's less meaningful if he knows that he can completely change the power structure within Russia. So I don't know. But not to completely sidetrack our conversation, but I do want to talk a little bit about this thing that happened in Quantico, if I could.
Okay.
If you want to talk about it now, or if you want to keep on with the Russia stuff. Look, I've covered the U.S. military for 30 years. That was disastrous. That was disastrous.
Yeah,
it was.
And what you're talking, by the way, for those watching home, the meeting where Trump and Hegseth arranged for this thing where he was going to give like a shitty TED talk about manhood to all the generals, and they pulled people out of station all over the fucking world, like literally yanked our leadership back for this fucking blather. Like his stuff was weak and stupid, but Trump's was a fucking, like, it was embarrassing. Like it was. I did the whole thing yesterday on my live stream. We watched the whole speech, and he was all over the place. His brain is mush, and on top of that, like Hegseth's speech didn't have any value whatsoever. They didn't go, I'm just introducing them. I want you guys all together because I want you guys to game out together, maybe in a way you haven't had a chance to, or because you're doing all this stuff virtually over the last few years. We're going to have breakout groups, and you guys are going to talk about your particular sphere of influence and any overlap. They didn't do any of that. It was just show up, listen to me fucking pound my chest and give my little fucking stupid TED talk, and then leave. Yeah. It was so gross.
Yeah, I mean, they flew back the commander of military operations on the Korean Peninsula to be at this pep rally.
Yeah, what the fuck?
You know, it was unprecedented. I know people who are. I still have contacts in the U.S. military, but I know people who are still actively involved in covering the military, and the general consensus was, even before that event happened, that the resentment of being dictated to by a guy who never commanded anything more than a squad in the way of Hegseth, and and of course, commander in chief is the commander in chief, but there was a lot of resentment. And in being kind of like called back for this kind of like show pony, artificial kind of thing, there was a lot of resentment about that. And so when there was no applause when they were leaving or coming to the stage, when there was, next to no reaction to obvious things that were meant to be applause lines or things like that. It was one of the worst things I think I've ever seen happen in the U.S. military. And I don't think those one-star generals and admirals and everybody from every stretch of command within the military had to degrade themselves to attending that.
Right.
That's not going to be forgotten soon.
No.
I've always had a deep concern ever since the Iraq War that we had an officer class that would probably, when I knew them in the Iraq War, were captains and lieutenants and maybe majors, and who are today maybe lieutenant colonels or one stars. And that's being generous. A lot of them probably stayed at that kind of
Sure.
03, 04 kind of level. Not the sharpest bulb, you know, not the sharpest tool in the shed, but good soldiers.
Yeah.
And I know the trauma that they went through in Iraq and Afghanistan, and I feel for those guys. I really do, and it fucked them up. And I know guys like, oh, I'm so glad we're not on the radio.
Yes. Yeah, it's okay.
It fucked them up. These guys are fucked up. And I know guys like Hegseth. And I combine my two areas of expertise when I talk about guys like Hegseth, because I know kind of like trigger pullers and door kickers, which is what I think Hegseth was in Iraq.
What he fashioned himself to be.
He says, no, and I'm probably even being generous, because he may have very much been what we used to call a FOBIT, which is a forward operating base. But a FOBIT is somebody who just never leaves the outside line. But I think I do think there's some truth to the fact that he was actually, again, a trigger puller and a door kicker, a snake eater, a guy who actually went outside the wire and killed people, and engaged in combat, and that fucks a person up. Right. That there is a certain atmosphere that goes with that. Not everybody walks away with PTSD or other mental issues, but I know a lot of guys who were in uniform in Iraq, and I knew them in Iraq, and I could see what it was doing to their mentality and their sense of self, and their identity of like what it means to have your life at risk and also to take a life. And that's not something that's really, really easy to walk away from. So I know those guys, but I also know guys who were taken to New York or London or whatever and put in the anchor's chair in front of a camera, and who were pampered and manipulated, especially in Fox, and turned into these awful human beings who had undue influence and power because they got ratings. Right. So you combine these two worlds: guys that were traumatized by the war, who were calloused and as I say, traumatized by the war, either taking life or having your life at risk. And then I know that world where you are just the shit in New York. You walk into the newsroom, right, and you are it. You are the guy. And that's why you see the sexual, again, especially at Fox, the power to abusive sexualization and kind of, I'm an anchor. Right. I'm an anchor on a Sunday morning program. Right. You're a 19-year-old intern at NYU, and you're pretty, and you want to be on screen. You want to be, and you know that being pretty is part of being on television, and you get the anchor, even if it's the fucking anchor of the Sunday afternoon, whatever. He's still so. All of this combines to this toxic bullshit that Hegseth has, and to see him in front of war commanders
Right.
Guys that have spent their entire lives sending men to their deaths for strategic
Or facing it
means,
themselves and facing it themselves in a lot of cases
and
before
facing
on their way
and
up.
facing on their way up, facing it themselves, but then learning what that means, and ultimately then carrying the burden of 3 a.m. waiting to hear how a mission to secretly go into North Korea, how that mission went, and you're sitting there on pins and needles at 3 in the morning. Those guys, that caliber of man, whether you like the concept of a military or not,
Right.
these are men. These are warriors. They're war commanders.
For the
And to
record,
sit there in a room and have to listen to a trumped up, trauma afflicted, clearly with some very deep psychological issues, and I don't want to go into the alcoholism thing, but I mean that's in the public record as well. But then also somebody who was a pampered little, special boy in the Fox newsroom, where he could, throw his weight around and throw his toys out the pram if he didn't like what was going on.
Right.
To be dictated by that kind of a man. I mean, this whole thing was incredibly disgraceful, and I don't think it did anything. I think the guys who were on the border of like, oh, we're finally going to have, these guys who were traumatized in Iraq and Afghanistan, who were like on the side of like, oh, we're going to be no more, DEI and no more transsexual officers, and even those guys, to sit there in a room and have Hexeth pull that shit like it's the OSU Michigan game, and we're about to go into the second quarter.
Right. Standing in front of a big patent flag. I'm going to play something real quick. This is the FAFO line. Hold on. Let's see if this plays.
To our enemies. FAFO. If necessary, our troops can translate that for you. Another way to put it is peace through strength.
God, just fucking like so fucking lame. This is what happens when someone does a live reading of tweets as art. You know what I mean? Like where they come out and go like, I'm gonna say in person what I said online, and then you're like, oh, you sound like a dipshit. This is, and by the way, and not to downplay the danger zone of being in Iraq at all during the time that he was there, but he served at Guantanamo previously to his time in Iraq and Afghanistan as effectively like,
it's a cop.
Yeah, as a cop there, the torture guard, just like, watching the facility as it were, and then when he, in Iraq or whatever, he acted largely as a civilian liaison with the town, with the town of Samara. He definitely, oversaw troops, and they were in a danger zone because all of Iraq was. And it, one of the big moments was allegedly that the vehicle he was in was hit by a rocket-propelled grenade that didn't go off. It was a dud. And so he tells the story about how they were hit and they saved themselves. And because of who he is, it's one of those things you're like, oh man, are we going to find out that it was actually somebody threw a rock at the vehicle, and a literal rock, and he's going to go that, thank God that rocket was a dud, and just tells that story everywhere when he's around other people who have, bullet wounds. And again, I'm grateful for people's service when they do it. But the idea that they can commandeer the work of other people, and Peter Principle their way to the top of the organization that they have no understanding of. The fact that he is running the entirety of what is the Pentagon right now, and he has none of the organizational skills or the awareness of the different arms, so much so that he would, and this is no greater example than the idea that he thinks he could pull these guys out of station, have them fly to D.C., some of them flying 8,000 miles to get there to listen to this fucking drivel. that he thinks is going to be part of his presidential campaign next time when he's either running against J.D. Vance or running to be J.D. Vance's VP, which is exactly what this was. Let me be abundantly clear. This whole thing set up by Pete Hegseth was an ad campaign because he is under the impression, and they have seen the numbers, that Vance cannot marshal MAGA the way Trump did, and they need a macho dickhead with a mythology of the media behind him. And Hegseth thinks he's it. That's what this is. Yeah. That's what that whole thing was. He was filming a fucking ad, and Trump knew this. That's why he wanted to show up and participate in it.
Yeah, that I was really upset and deeply disturbed by that performance, and it's not a competition. Combat is combat, and it's not a competition. But I was in a Bradley that got hit by 7 RPGs. I saw I was in another contact where we pulled a first sergeant into our vehicle who's, well, I don't want to get too graphic.
Yeah.
Who had a head wound, extreme head wound. It's to having just said that, to use it to your benefit for political expediency, I find very, very distasteful. And I just, those officers who had to sit through that, no wonder they didn't applaud. No wonder there were no cheers or, as they walked up. I think that did a lot of damage when it comes to, and the whole threat of, like, we have to worry about the enemy within, and we're going to start talking about deployment to our own cities. I think that went down as a lead balloon. Absolutely, 100%, which is a good thing.
Right.
But not least of which because this stunt was so distasteful to so many of these guys, and it's just
But again, it's a power struggle. Like they're literally they're trying to wrest back the image of power away from people who they know actually have it. And this is a machismo thing. This is a dick measuring contest. And I gotta say the weakest shit, Sam Stein wrote, Hegseth called the generals in to fat shame them, and Megyn Kelly's response was, and we are here for it. This is about them patching a giant fucking macho hole in Donald Trump. It's just, and they know it. And he looks weaker by the day. He looks, it's just increasingly pathetic. And Hegseth never looked strong. And that he's there again. This is a PR campaign aimed at a specific audience because Trump is looking weak, and Hegseth, is hoping he can come in and scoop some of this power away and look, more like chiseled, and because Vance is such a fucking dweeb that he thinks he can snatch away MAGA from him. And he very well may be right to some extent, not enough to, drive the rest of the electorate in his direction, but he thinks this is the winning ticket for himself. He used his power as the new Secretary of War, and this, like the ability for the Secretary of Defense to call it.
I'm not going to call it the Secretary of War.
No,
I'm not going to call it the Department of War. I've never.
The excuse.
There is
silly.
You need no, and I'm sorry.
Yes. No, it's okay.
Break in, but I feel really strongly about
With
this.
Air quotes, right? Yeah.
You cannot. It is not the Department of War. It is the Department of Defense. It takes congressional vote to change it from the Department of Defense. That is not an executive decision. That has to be put to a vote.
Yeah.
And until
Right.
it is still the Department of Defense.
Yeah.
It's
That's
not
why
the
nobody
Department of
reacted to
War.
it.
It's
Trump
bullshit.
kept saying, like, nobody reacted to it. And like, yeah, because it's not a thing. It's just it's just it's some
You
nickname.
made that up.
Yeah, it's like, why don't you call it? It's like calling Marco Rubio Little Marco. That has the same impact. But the point I'm trying to make is this air quotes as the new head of the
I didn't mean to. I didn't, but I feel very strong.
Yeah, of course.
No, but I feel very strongly about that.
Yeah, to bring
I
them
really
in
do.
on this.
No,
so
it
that,
is.
So that he could film an ad for himself for 2028 or 20, I guess 2032. Whatever he thinks his window is. That's what that is. That's all that was.
Yeah.
And Trump knew
and
it.
To bring
I think, and that's why he wanted to bogart part of it.
And to bring it back to my neck of the woods as well, is that there is also the stark contrast to a guy like Volodymyr Zelensky, who has had assassination teams sent after him, who lives in a city where nightly get rockets and drones getting shot at us. I mean, this is the real stuff. And, I think there's also the contrast there, where it's like, I think there's a problem when it comes to Hegseth in particular, but Trump to a lesser extent because of his pathology. But I think Hegseth knows it in his heart of hearts that there's imposter syndrome. They know that
they don't deserve to be there.
They know they don't deserve to be there.
That's right.
In their very, very heart of hearts, they know that there are better men there. And to stand there on a stage in front of 800 warfighters, as we have already mentioned, probably a lot of guys who have actually had lost friends, who've been in combat, who've felt the fear of combat, who've felt the responsibility of leading other men into combat, to be lectured by these guys it's so deeply offensive and wrong. And as delusional as they are, and especially, like, sadly, the president himself. But I think a guy like Hegseth, I don't know what's going on with Rubio,
right?
But Tulsi Gabbard, all these. I think so many of these people know that they don't know what they're doing, and they're running at double speed to try and persuade the rest of us that they know what the fuck they're doing, when we all really know they don't.
Right.
Kash Patel. I mean, the whole thing with the shooter. With what happened to Charlie Kirk. I mean, these guys, they all know that they're out of their depth. I think they really do in their heart of hearts, unless they are so far down the path of some sort of psychological self-delusion. They know it. They know in their heart of hearts that they don't deserve to be where they are. And I feel really bad for those guys. I feel really bad for those officers, and I don't like officers generally. Some I like more than others.
Sure.
Some I like more than others, but those guys sitting there who are professionals, they're war fighters, and they had to sit through that. I mean, it's bad. The whole thing is bad,
ultimately,
bad.
the military, like I said, the military is like a gun, in that the worst day of your life is the best day of a gun's existence. When you need it, and it has to be there, and it has to do something awful because it's a choice between that and your own demise. that's the best thing you can say about it. You don't have to be happy that it has to exist. That's sad, but you don't have to deride it for its existence in the same regard. You must recognize its function and that it matters whose hand it is in. That you don't want it in the hands of a crazy person or someone who's vindictive or stupid. And in the case of Donald Trump, we have all of the above. And all it was a reminder that the people that are currently overseeing what would be the function of our military, which is one of the most dangerous organizations on the planet, are sycophants and dumbasses. Hegseth is a dumbass. And he and Donald Trump both have the ability to direct all of those generals to do stuff. And if it's within even the remotest legal structure, like the authorized use of military force, they can do some crazy damaging shit. And so it matters who's in charge. And so for the people, again, who like hung up their vote or half-assed it or thought that it was a coin flip between Harris and Trump this time around, or Biden and Trump, or anybody and Trump, recognize that not only are you seeing like the impact they're having on the jobs market, the impact that they're not having on prices, but the fact that you and the ability to control the SCOTUS for perhaps a generation, because make no mistake about it, the oldest members of the SCOTUS, if we start getting near the end of Trump's term and he's still around and has any brains left, or even if it's just Vance, there's going to be tremendous pressure put on them legally, like, hey, if you don't step down now and let us replace you, we're going to let the Democrats go after you and impeach you next time around because we know what you've been up to in the case of like the graft around Clarence Thomas, for example. So they're going to threaten them so they can replace them and then hold on to the SCOTUS for another generation. That power to even toy with the idea of handing that over to someone like Trump, or is in the same boat as handing this over, the military over, to somebody like Trump and Hegseth. It's too powerful to not make the mature decision about this every goddamn time. And anybody who thinks it's close at all has to be reminded of this, of what they're talking about in this speech, and how like we're all about the war fighting and the war fighting and the war fighting and it's all about war fighting, and it's apolitical. You're just going to go over there and kill people. You're going to be given targets and you're going to kill people. Don't worry about civilian deaths. Don't worry about blowback. Don't worry about any of that stuff. Not our fucking problem. What we want is macho fear.
Not recognizing that actually to have the one team on the ground as your strike force, there's a whole stretch of things that come behind the U.S. military is a really large organization, and the 12 guys that are on the ground kicking down doors are only there because there are literally hundreds, if not thousands, behind them who are procuring bullets, who are doing administrative work to make sure that those bullets are accounted for, to transport it to the ship that needs to go to the location, to get on the helicopter, to get with. I mean, it's just this romanticized. The last thing I will say about this is, I would be willing to. There is a reason why there is the old saying that no one hates war more than the soldiers who have fought in war. I would be willing to bet, and I don't know his entire biography, but I would be very willing to hazard a guess that Pete Hegseth has never seen a man die in combat. And I have seen men die in combat. And I never want anybody to see that again. And it's just for him to sit there in a room with men who know what all of it means, from the guy who kicks down the door to kill some very bad people. Not going to argue that. But what goes into that, and all the way, it's not this macho Rambo 2 and up or kind of Chuck Norris kind of mentality of what combat looks like.
Right.
And that's what Hegseth is kind of like, you know, saying. And to have him as the head of our military is just a disgrace, an absolute
Well, I mean,
disgrace.
again,
And
Trump. This is
those
true
men
of
knew.
all.
Those men in that room knew.
The people in charge of the financial sector are people that he knows will aid and abet his theft of the wealth of American citizens and government contracts and all this stuff. They want to shrink the government everywhere except where they can get graft from it. The people that he's in charge of the Department of Agriculture and the like have no attachment to farmers by and large. They're in it for the big ag business as well, and they will aid and abet their stealing of land from small family farms. This is not an accident that he put dipshits like this in charge of very important organizations. And Hegseth is yet another one of those guys because, first of all the reports about him like freaking out and crawling out of his skin everywhere, and that Hegseth can't even sit down in fucking meetings with, I suppose, unless he's had a shot or two. He's got to like wander around and kind of pace. It's because he knows he doesn't have any answers for the real work that these guys do. He has no real response. Like everything has to be deferred. What do you guys think? Well, what do you guys think? And he's got like imposter syndrome writ large in everything he does, and he's aware of it. And everyone around him is aware of it in there. It's fucking gross. But the point is, he's not there because of that. He's there because he looks the part, according to Trump, and he will assist Trump in whatever graft he wants to get, whether it's giving, bigger arms to Israel or selling arms to people regardless of what they do with them, so that he can make money through the military that he can use to patch the hole in the budget that's caused by his tax cut. That's it. He doesn't give a shit. I appreciate you being here, and we went a little bit over, but I want to remind everybody to check out.
We did. The recovery we're going to have to go through.
Yeah.
After this is just going to be.
Yeah.
So hard.
Exactly. But it can be done. And like I said, I think
it can be done. Well, we don't have a choice. We don't have a choice. We're going to have to.
We got to have
to fix it. We can.
That's right.
We've done it before. We'll do it again.
Agreed.
Nice talking to you. Yeah, we went a little over. I will see you on Saturday for the radio show. We're filming tomorrow for next week's episode. Maybe even the next 2 weeks' episodes. And so we will keep putting stuff out. And if you haven't seen last week's episode, which was all about drone technology and how Ukraine is at the forefront of drone technology, go check that out.
Yeah, exactly. Appreciate it, brother. Thank you so much for being here.
All right, man.
Be safe.
Take care.
Okay, there he goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Philip Bittner, off he goes. And thank you guys. I've got to duck out real quick because I have an appointment, and then I will be back this afternoon. And then I've got to do a hard reset and update some things so that I can solve, I think, that echo bounce, whatever we had going on for moments in there. I think that was just a momentary glitch. Momentary lapse of reason. But you guys are awesome. I will see you later this afternoon. Take care of yourself. And sorry, Cliff is you two set up to. Okay, we're gonna raid Cliff Schechter. Excellent. And then on Twitch right after the show, we can fire that over there now. Excellent. Do I need to stay on a little bit longer so you can do that? Or are you all good? Is he on right now, or is he in for at the half hour point? I hope he's on right now. Fingers crossed. Off we go, because I got to run. Anyways, take care of yourself and take care of somebody else, everybody. See you this afternoon.
Bright with a crooked smile. We're still out. All venom, no style. Promises made, they rot in the air. A handshake, a lie, a blank, cold stare. some bull.